Hey everybody, Sharon here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Brok the InvestiGator going for the best student achievement. This is to have Graph outscore Klay on the exam by the time you reach the end of the game. So the exam is going to be the main gameplay gimmick of all of Graph's scenarios. It is going to be split into 4 parts across Graph's story. The first part is going to be the written exam, and that's going to take place at the beginning of Chapter 2. So, start of Chapter 2, as soon as you get control of your cursor, make sure you click on the screen. There's going to be 10 questions, and your goal is to answer all of them correctly. You're also going to want to try to answer them as quickly as possible, as if you answer them super fast, you should get some bonus points at the end. So, the answers to the questions in order is going to be like this. Question 1 is going to be do nothing. Question 2 is going to be 11 and then 24. Question 3 is going to be son-in-law. Question 4 is to spell out nothing. That's going to be Nothing. Question 5 is going to be P and then U. Question 6 is going to be your friend. Question 7 is going to be 16. Question 8 is going to be 3026 AR. Question 9 is going to be youth gang. And then question number 10 is going to be 25. Once you are done, click on the arrow in the upper right to submit your score, and then pick yes to confirm. If you happen to get a perfect score, you should be awarded with 25 points, and if you did it quick enough, you should get 2 bonus points, so you should be 27 points right here, which is going to be tied with Klay for first place. As soon as you finish up the written part of the exam, you're going to transition into Brok's scenario at the police station. Believe it or not, this part is actually going to have an effect on how well Graph is going to do on his exam. So your goal is to answer all of the questions correctly during the interrogation scene also as quickly as possible. The answers are going to be like this. Question 1 is going to be Brok. Question 2 is going to be private detective. Question 3 is going to be for Graph. Question 4 is going to be client. Question 5 is going to be investigating. Question 6 is going to be free. Question 7 is going to be yes. Question 8 is going to be no. And then question 9 is going to be I don't know. Hopefully you can answer all of these correctly and super fast, and then that should transition you over to you in the jail cell. Now your goal is to try to escape jail in under 10 minutes, as you are going to have to be on time to Graph's science fair. You're also going to need to escape in a way where you can leave the police department. So start out by grabbing the cat fur in the shower drain, and then just make sure you click the second button on the wall to switch it over to bedroom mode. Then make sure you click on the screen, click on the book, flip through it until you get to page 2, and then make sure you try to update the firmware. It's going to error out, but it's also going to revert the software back to beta mode, which is going to allow us to convert the jail cell into debug mode. So make sure you look up the instructions on page 3 on how to do that. And then once you have that information, make sure you go back. You're going to want to set it back to the restroom mode by clicking button 3. Then you're going to need to step on the floor panels in a very specific order. It's going to be bottom left, upper right, bottom right, upper left. Once debug mode is going to be activated, what you want to do is you want to make sure you talk to Sin. Make sure you ask him about himself, and then make sure you ask about RJ twice. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure you ask him to press a button. You're going to want to set his cell to restroom mode, so make sure you have him press button 3. Then go over to the sink and then interact with the defect. That should break it. And then once you have it broken, make sure you go back to Sin and then talk to him again. Make sure you ask him to press button 4 this time. And then you're going to want to pick repair sink. Then what's going to happen is RJ is going to come into the cell and then try to fix the sink. While he is fixing it, make sure you open up your inventory, grab the cat fur, and then make sure you interact with the defect again. That should place the cat fur in his hat, and what's going to happen is his allergies are going to knock him out, which is going to allow you to escape the jail peacefully without causing a ruckus. So make sure you let that play out. It's going to take a little while, so be a little patient with it. But once he does stand up, he is going to knock out. Once you are back in control, make sure you head back to the buttons and make sure you press button 1 in order to control the visitor lift. You want to make sure you steer it into the cell doors, and it's going to reflect off and then knock out the camera. You want to do this for both of Sin as well as your own camera. Once you have that, make sure you use the lift to hit the touch panel. That should open up the cell. Again, do that for both cells to free Sin and yourself. And then once you are back in control, you should be able to escape. Make sure you talk to Sin and then say your goodbyes, and then grab your stuff out of the locker, and then we're just going to sneak out of the police station. If you do it this way, you should be able to sneak out without engaging any of the robots in combat, as long as you don't pursue them. So just make sure you stealth your way through. Once you get into the lobby, you are going to have to use the remote to stun them so you can get across safely. But make sure you make the front door, and if you escape the police department in under 10 minutes, you should be good for making Graph's Science Fair at the end of the chapter. So with that taken care of, we're going to head back to Graph's scenario. We're going to actually play the science fair. So Klay is going to come in, make sure you refuse, and then make sure you pick let it go. He's going to end up breaking your science experiment, and then you are going to need to play fairly so you can get through this without sabotaging anyone. Ott is going to hand you the force field generator, and you're going to want to click on your project. Then make sure you inspect all three parts, the right part, the left part, and then the desk. Make sure you talk to Ott and then get through every bit of conversation, and then you should have the green light to leave the school, out the door, and then down the hallway to get to the map. Our first destination is going to be Shay's garage, so make sure you head on over there. Once you are here, you're going to talk to Shay. Make sure you get through all of those, and she should give you the earbuds. Once you have that, you're going to want to grab the screwdriver right here off of the cushion to the right of the desk, and then make sure you interact with this pink box right here to grab the detector out of it. Once you have those two, our next destination is going to be Sector 56X. Once you're here, make sure you talk to the merchant and then grab a statuette out of her box. Once you have that, make sure you go to the right. She should be interrogated by a drone. You can leave that alone for now if you want to. It doesn't really matter, but head to the right. Use your screwdriver on the panel. You're going to want to interact with thumb screw 5 and 7 in that order, and that should allow you to shut off the power to the button. So make sure you pop those out, and then make sure you re-equip your screwdriver. Interact with the info phone right here, and then if you did it correctly, you should pull the button out. Feel free to leave after this. Saving the merchant isn't going to be a necessity for this achievement, so feel free to handle that however you want. But our next destination is going to be back home. Once you are here, you're going to want to grab the statuette and then use it on the stove to turn it into some melted plastic. Once you have that, you want to make sure you interact with the advertisement to grab a sticker. And then the last thing we need from the apartment is going to be back in our room. So back inside and then into our bedroom, interact with the drawer to pull out the flower. And then that should be everything we need in order to get our science project both fixed and protected. So it's going to be back to school. So head back to the Consciousness Center. Once you are here, make sure you interact with your invention again. And then this time we're going to use the melted plastic to fix the right part. Make sure you start out by popping down the force field generator on the desk in the middle. Then you're going to want to use the button of death and the detector on it. Lastly, we're going to need Klay's fingerprint, but we're going to also need to get our friendship level higher with him. So you're going to do this by giving him the earbuds, which should give you a nice boost. It should also make him hearing impaired for the moment, so make sure you use the flower on him. Then you're going to use the sticker to get the fingerprint, and then once you have that, make sure you take it back to the invention and then use it on the force field generator to set up the trap, and that should get you past this part without losing any relationship level with Klay. Then it's going to be back over to Brok. Remember, if you were quick enough earlier, you should have him make Graph's science fair in time, and you shouldn't have Graph lose any points because you were late. That's going to segue us into Chapter 3. If you happen to make the science fair on time, this part's going to play a little differently than it would otherwise. But you're going to start the chapter out by heading over to Shay's garage. She is going to give you the information on how to get to the Hacker Street because she needs to pay off some debts. So make sure you head over there first instead of going to the Consciousness Center as you would if you were late to the science fair. Once you get to the Hacker House, you're going to notice the director is going to come out here. She is going to ask you for a favor. Make sure you accept, as completing this is going to get Graph some bonus points, and that is to get her a self-modifier chip. Make sure you keep playing the game until you get into the hacker house to pay off Shay's debt. Then you're going to ask about the self-modifier chip. You can either buy it from him if you have enough money, or you can accept this favor he offers you. This favor is going to be done by heading over to the police department. We're going to go there next anyway, so might as well accept the favor if you don't have the cash, as it's going to be along the way. Make sure you wrap up whatever you have to do there as you normally would, and that's going to complete the favor for the hacker, which is going to result in him sending the director the chip as she had requested. That's going to segue us into part 2 of the exam, which is going to be Graph at the bunker. Now, you are actually going to have to solve all 3 of the puzzle chambers in order to score some points for this, so even if you have it available to you, make sure you do not use the skip puzzle feature. So starting out in the starting area, make sure you grab the weight right here in the upper right. We're going to tackle the left side chamber first. Make sure you enter action mode, and then make sure you punch out this crack in the wall to pull out the second weight. Once you have that, make sure you get into the main room of the left chamber. Make sure you interact with the trap right here in the discolored piece of tile, and then make sure you equip your apartment key and then use it to unlock the next weight. Once you have that, press the button to start the puzzle. Make sure you quickly rush over and then press button 1. That's going to change the direction of the pipe. Then you're going to need to wait, and then once the ball rounds the corner, make sure you press button 2 to time the next pipe. Then we're going to wait for a very long time, and then wait for the ball to get all the way down, and then once it starts climbing again, you want to make sure you hit button 3. So once it crawls up this right angle, make sure you hit button 3, and that should get it across. We're going to move over here, skip button 4 as the pipe is already in place, and then we're going to wait until the ball gets all the way to the left side. Once it's here, it's going to get stuck because it needs to fight against gravity to head up this pipe. You can enter action mode and then make sure you punch the wall. That should unjam the ball, allowing it to go forward. Then you need to quickly get over to button 5 and then press that to make sure you clear the final pipe junction. So if you happen to get that all right in your first try, you should have the ball drop into the goal, and you should be rewarded with the golden triangle that goes along with this puzzle chamber. So make sure you pocket that, and it's going to be over to the right puzzle chamber next. So it's going to be back across. Once you are here, you're going to want to stop right here at the bottom, switch over to action mode, and then keep jumping up and down on this crack, and then once you break it, you should be able to grab another weight. So make sure you pocket that. Then make sure you head around the puzzle, and then look right here in the upper right for the next weight. This next puzzle chamber is going to be a game of 4x4 tic-tac-toe against the AI. The AI is going to be pretty tough, however you can cheat by just placing the weights on the buttons. So make sure you place 3 weights and then make sure you just step on the 4th to form a row. That should automatically complete the tic-tac-toe match, which is going to give you the puzzle chamber as well as the golden token that goes along with it. So make sure you pick that one up. On to the upper chamber, make sure you enter action mode and then jump on this box and then jump onto the walkway right here. We're going to wrap around and then grab the weight right here on the right side. Once you have that, make sure you drop down, enter action mode again, and this time break the box. Make sure you get onto the walkway before you break the box, as there's going to be no other way up. So make sure you do that to get the last weight. And the final puzzle is to use all of the weights to balance out the scales. You want to make sure you place 17 weight on each side. So for the left side, you want to make sure you do 1, 6, and then 10. And then for the right side, you want to make sure you use the rest of the weights, which are going to be 2, 3, 5, and 7. You can tell how heavy a weight is by counting the pedals on it. But once you balance out the scale with 17 on each side, you should get to the third golden triangle. Bring all 3 back to the starting area. Make sure you place them on these darker triangles on the floor. There's going to be 2 on the left, 1 on the right. So first one's going to be in the middle on the left, next one's going to be in the bottom left on the left, and then finally the one on the right is going to go in the middle towards the bottom right here. That should wrap up our first trip to the bunker. Just make sure you play through the rest of Chapter 3 and play through the beginning part of Chapter 4, which is going to be Brok's scenario at the lab. Get back to Graf's scenario in Chapter 4, and you're going to be in the final room of the bunker. We're going to need to examine everything before we can move forward, so make sure you examine the foot screen, the frame, either one of the 2 doors on the right, the triangular door up top, the tribots right here behind the observation glass. Make sure you try to exit out both of the exits on the left. Then make sure you try to examine Klay, and then make sure you try to press the button, and that's going to be everything that gets you through the introduction bit. Klay is going to lie down on the bed. Make sure you take the time to talk to him and then listen to his story. So pick insist, and that's going to give you a big boost in terms of your relationship points with him. When the trial is going to ask who is going to stay on the wall, make sure you volunteer yourself. The reason you wanted to have a high relationship point value with Klay is he should be able to get this part done himself, so you can just sit back and watch. Make sure you don't use the skip feature though, so let this scene play out where he does the puzzle for you. And also, if your friendship level is high enough for him, he should also free you, and then both of you should escape A-okay. So just make sure you get through the rest of that chapter, and then get to Chapter 5. So Chapter 5 is going to feature the final part of the exam, which is going to start out with Graf heading over to the Consciousness Center. Once he is here, you're going to get the option to denounce Klay or not. You can pick whatever you want. It doesn't really have any bearing on anyone's score. Then the final part of the exam is going to take place at the museum. You're going to be given a 1-hour time limit, so you need to complete this within an hour. So straight to the museum, and then you're going to have a slew of puzzles here. Now, just like at the bunker, you cannot use the skip puzzle feature in order to get past this, as you are going to actually have to play to earn points. Also, you're going to want to actually play through as many puzzles as you can, as normally you would be able to skip all of the puzzles if you knew the solution to the final puzzle. However, the more puzzles you complete, the more points you're going to score for the exam, so make sure you do as many as you can. So the first puzzle should be simple enough. You're going to want to head over to the right. There's going to be this little tablet device right here by the triangular stone called the small object. Make sure you pick that up. You're going to bring it over here to this exhibit on the left. Make sure you insert it into the slot, so where it says stand, and that's going to be how you complete that. Once you get that one done, we're going to head over here. We're going to want to switch into action mode, jump onto the piano, and then jump up here, and then all the way up here to grab this piece of parchment. Once you have that, you're going to drop down. Then you're going to insert the parchment into this space right here on this tower thing. After that, we're going to head over here and then interact with the hole on the steel. It's going to give you a clue, CC under stew desk. That's going to require you to head back to the consciousness center and then look under Stewbot's chair. And then under there is going to be a key that is going to go in that hole from earlier. So make sure you grab that, and then once you have it, make sure you head back to the museum and then use the key on the hole to get that puzzle out of the way. Next one up is going to be by the front door, so make sure you head back to the upper left and then make sure you look at this display. You're going to notice there's going to be a missing statue right here in the exposition. To fill this, we're going to have to go back to the overworld. Make sure you go to Sector 56X. You want to make sure you go over to the merchant stand. She should be missing if you killed her off earlier, but nonetheless, just interact with the box of statuettes again to grab one, and then we're going to take this back to the museum and then just pop it back into the spot right here. So make sure you use this on the exposition, and that should complete another puzzle. Then it's going to be on to the super time-consuming part of the museum arc, which is going to be the triangular stone. So make sure you click on that, and then it's going to start up this mini game as soon as you click on the screen. Your goal is to pick a shape, and then make sure you just keep clicking that shape as it pops up in the following sequences. So we're going to start out with the triangle, for example. Click on the triangle, and then you want to make sure you pick on every single subsequent triangle that appears in each sequence. What this is going to do is it's going to give you a triangle shape out of the slot, and then you're going to pocket that. And then what you're going to need to do is you to make sure you repeat this for every single one of the other shapes. So there's going to be 4 shapes total, so you need to do the sphere, the half sphere, and the rectangular prism. So once you have all 4 shapes pocketed, you should be good for everything you need out of this machine. It is going to be quite a slog to sit through all of this, but just make sure you get through it, and then make sure you get all of those shapes. So once you have all of them, it's time to start using them. Head over here to this display, which is going to be the exposition. Use the half sphere on the little city in order to complete that puzzle. For the next puzzle, you would normally use the sphere to throw at the target in the back. However, you can cheese this by switching into action mode and just punching the button right here at the top. That should disable the lasers, and then once you have access to the back side of the ticket booth, make sure you go back into action mode and then punch the X on the wall to complete that puzzle. Once you get that one out of the way, you want to make sure you go over here to the sign. This is going to be the puzzle that uses the triangular prism. You're going to use it on the bottom right screw to screw that in, and that should complete that puzzle. And then once you get that one taken care of, the last thing we have to do is going to be over here at the piano. So make sure you head over there, and then you're going to use the rectangular prism on the missing E note. And then you're going to need to play the notes in this particular order. You want to do D, G, H, A, I, C, B, E, F. Once you get all of those in, make sure you hit the enter key, and that is going to be the end of the museum arc. You should be rewarded with a fireworks show, and that is going to be everything we need to do here. You're going to wrap whatever you need to do for the rest of Chapter 5, and then you're going to start the final chapter over here at the Consciousness Center. The director should come in and reveal everyone's exam scores. Klay should score somewhere in the middle 80s. As long as you score higher than him, you should be good for this achievement. Now, the game is always going to give you a 40-point penalty. There's no escaping that, but what's going to count towards the achievement is the initial score. So as long as that's higher than Klay's, you should be good for the achievement. Also, do keep in mind you are going to need to score over 50 points after the point deduction in order to qualify for the drummer ending. So that's going to be 90 points or higher before the 40-point penalty. So make sure you do keep that in mind if you do plan on going for both things in the same playthrough. Nonetheless, if you did everything correctly, you should outscore Klay and then be good for this particular achievement. It's going to be for 50 gamer score. And that's all there is to it.